We're here for our regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We're starting this evening with a public hearing. And so we're having a public hearing on ordinance number 1651, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026 for passage on third and final reading. I believe we have about 4 people already signed up to address the budget, so since this is the budget hearing, why don't we do that now? The first one on the list we have is Hank Jordan. Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. My name is Hank Jordan. I'm Director of Business with Tullahoma City Schools. I'm here this evening to read an email that Dr. Stevens sent to City Administrator Quick last Wednesday, June 18th, regarding school crossing guards. She regrets she is unable to be here as she is on vacation with her husband. The email. Thanks for reaching out to me yesterday afternoon to discuss the budget you are working on and the proposed cuts or changes you are providing to BOMA members on Monday. In our conversation, you mentioned one item on that list that would impact Tullahoma City Schools, school crossing guards. You indicated this is about $34,000 per year for the PEOPLE program. You said you are unsure of how the meeting will go and what changes BOMA members will want to make. So I wanted to give you information to share with them. I've had a short time to think about this and wanted to raise some concerns and challenges about this possible removal from the city's annual budget. The most pressing concern to me is the safety of students. With such a quick turnaround for TCS to take this program on and be ready for July 31st, the students' first day of school. As we have so many walkers and bike riders, this change causes me immediate and pressing concerns. If BOMA were to approve the city budget without this safety program for students and families, we would need to do several things. First, amend our 25-26 budget that was just approved last night. This would require the Finance Committee to meet and determine what will be cut or changed to take this on. While we would have an idea of the total cost, we would need to know what is involved, personnel, materials, etc., to ensure the budget lines are correct. Second, we would need to have a special call meeting in July to do several things. Seek approval for these new positions. Board Policy 5.116 provides the parameters for this, but essentially we would need job descriptions, qualifications, performance responsibilities, how they will be evaluated, who will oversee them, how they would fit in the organizational chart that would need to incorporate them in this program. We could not do anything with this until the school board approved the new positions, and we would have to have all these items needed to bring it to them. Secondly, we would need to seek approval for an amended budget and show them what the Finance Committee determined would be the best way to cut items to add this unexpected cost to our annual budget. There would also be immediate impacts on multiple departments and schools with little turnaround time to prepare. The departments would be HR, finance, safety, and then of course all 7 schools. In the short time given to think through this, these are just a few of the items that came to my mind. HR, we would need to post positions, onboard new employees, conduct background checks, etc. Like substitutes, this will be an ongoing item for HR to process. For finance, we would need to change our finance software to ensure these individuals are added with appropriate coding, times to report, determine the flow for timesheets, monitor timesheets for accuracy, ensure payments for these contracted employees, etc. For safety, we would need to be trained on expectations from TPD, placement of crossing guards at each location, how to train crossing guards, what the processes are when things go awry with vehicles not obeying crossing guards, the materials needed, etc. Process for communicating when out or unable to fill the spots would also have to be determined, communicated, etc. The safety standards for schools do not include crossing guards, which makes me wonder if this is appropriate for schools to take on. The only safety standards related to pedestrian traffic is speed bumps, humps, or other calming traffic devices. For our schools, leaders would have to have plans in place to cover crossing guards who are missing, which adds stress to them as they are trying to start the day and must be thinking about this challenge should it arise from day to day. I plan to let the Finance Committee know about this, as I do not want them blindsided by the possible discussion of this at Monday's meeting. And because it will have an immediate implications for this group, the school board, and our district, we would come back on July 7th, and it would be nearly impossible to have everything in place for a July 31st first day of school. I truly appreciate you sharing this information with me yesterday afternoon so that I was not blindsided by the potential discussion. I know you will keep me informed, as this has significant implications for TCS where student safety is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gressel.
Craig Gressel, 316 Oak Park Drive. I know that tonight is a challenging night as you face some difficult task of shaping next year's city budget, and I just wanted to take a moment to once again advocate on behalf of South Jackson Performing Arts Center. Over the past several years, we've played by the rules, done all the things, crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, and we've worked diligently to provide the data, metrics, and transparency that the city has requested in order to help make informed decisions regarding the hotel-motel tax allotment. The numbers clearly demonstrate that South Jackson is a large and very impactful tourism entity in the city as a whole. My goal is not to diminish the value of other organizations, but rather to ensure that SJPAC receives an appropriate and proportional share of the available funds. Our continued growth and success directly benefits the local economy, hospitality sector, and cultural life of our community. I just respectfully ask that you would consider a percentage increase in our allotment so that the city can be a true partner in the promising future that we're trying to build for Tullahoma. Thank you. I appreciate your time and support.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Nunley.
Good evening. I'm Hope Nunley, the Executive Director of the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. And I wanted to just provide some additional information outside of the packet that we submitted to you all. This year, we have provided 39 free networking, business development, and economic development opportunities, along with 4 fee-based events, attracting over 2,278 attendees. TACC hosts more than 70 events annually with over 14,000 participants. Only 1 event is exclusive to members, and just 9 charge admission. Our office monthly houses the Middle Tennessee Small Business Development Center, offering free business training to all businesses regardless of chamber membership. Additionally, TACC co-leads the Coffee County Leadership Program in partnership with the Manchester Area Chamber of Commerce. Each year, this cross-community initiative develops 25 informed, connected, and capable civic leaders to support workforce resilience and economic vitality. We've celebrated 10 ribbon cuttings this year and have strengthened our partnership with Arnold Air Force Base by organizing tours for groups. I personally have attended 37 events this year to support our community partners, including the State of Tennessee, Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, Tennessee Department of Economic Development, the City of Tullahoma, Motlow State Community College, Arnold Air Force Base, the University of Tennessee Space Institute, the Coffee County Industrial Board, Tullahoma City Schools, and the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation. We have completed the 24-25 marketing grant, which produced a trifold to promote our tourism assets, a class led by an industry professional photography, and launched our Visit Tullahoma Instagram and Facebook accounts. We promoted Tullahoma in 38 interviews across radio, TV, the Tullahoma News, and Good News. We also purchased window clings with a QR code linking to our website to facilitate access to our services outside of office hours, and distributed over 2,500 copies of Think Tullahoma across the state, including the Tennessee Welcome Center in Clarksville and Nickajack Visitor Center, with over 2,700 views of the digital version on our website. We are grateful to this board for your continued support of our organization. While we do serve a membership, we also serve the entire community and are the Welcome Center to Tullahoma. Thank you.
And then Ms. Lee.
Beverly Lee. I live at 114 Fairways Boulevard, and I'm the chairman of the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Council Corporation. Mayor and members of the public, Board of Mayor Alderman and members of the public, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let me begin with just a word of recognition to the Tullahoma Area Chamber of Commerce. which serves not only over 500 local businesses in our region, but also for their deep contribution for our city's identity, economy, and values. They're often the first stop of our visitors, tourists, and also potential residents exploring Tullahoma. But I also want to note their business retention efforts. They're very strategic. At a time when national brands like Joann's, Big Lots, OfficeMax face store closures, corporate restructuring, and sometimes bankruptcy, even when our local sales numbers are strong, our chamber is actively engaged with our residents, the store managers, developers, and regional reps to assist in any way they can. Their 24-member board of directors, which actually includes myself, the chairman of the TADC, the president of the Tullahoma Utilities Authority, hospital leadership, education leaders, our banks and local business owners. These directors not only personally reach out to their over 500 businesses every year, but they also assist every other business in Tullahoma throughout the year. The Chamber actually has 70 events every year. Hope gave a great synopsis of the first 6 months this year, but their 70 events draw 14,000 attendees and strengthen the fabric of our community. And I can't say enough about their CEO school business partnership. It actually does a lot in pairing our businesses with our students and our schools to help our future workforce. But I want to turn my comments now to any potential budget cuts that may affect the Tullahoma area economic development efforts. I want to thank our city administrator and Sue Wilson for stepping up to fulfill key responsibilities in the absence of an executive director at this time, but we are actively recruiting new leadership. And we need a full-time professional economic development leader to respond to changing national industry trends and proactively recruit vibrant, future-focused commercial and industry players. And projects as big as the Summerlin development, as well as the revitalization of the Northgate Mall, both supported through tax increment financing. They're complex initiatives, and we need a professional to step in to take on that leadership role. Winston Brooks did a great job for our city. Thank you for all of you that came to his reception. And we need to attract someone with that experience and the drive that our city deserves. So in this time when we're facing growth in a lot of industries that are here in Tullahoma today, as well as AEDC's growth, we can't afford to take a step back. So I just want to thank you for all of your support in the past, and thank you for the job that you do and the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the budget in the budget hearing? If not, we'll close that hearing and we'll enter into our regular meeting agenda. If you would, let's stand and we'll have the invocation of Reverend Chris Roberts.
Let us pray. God of grace, we thank you, Lord, for the privilege of gathering here this evening. We ask for your blessings and favor upon our mayor and aldermen as they carry out the business before them. Grant them wisdom and discernment as they consider each matter brought forth in this chamber tonight. Father, may your presence guide their thoughts, words, and decisions. Lord, we also lift up the citizens of Tullahoma. Help us to love and care for one another with compassion and grace, that in our daily lives we might reflect the character and example of Christ. Help us to live lives of diligent prayer for our community until Tullahoma becomes the pride of our state. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen. Now if you would join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See it? Got a roll call. We've got all 7 present. And at this time, if it's suitable, we're going to jump and do the beer board agenda before we enter into our regular agenda. So we'll suspend temporarily and enter into the beer board. So we call that meeting to order. And we have a period for public comments on the beer board. Is there anyone who wishes to make a public comment in regard to the beer board meeting? Seeing none, we'll move along. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, item number 25-BB14, approved minutes of the June 9th, 2025 regular meeting. Do we have a motion and approval? We do. And if there's any discussion on that, and if not, let's vote. Minutes are approved, 5-0. Item number 25-BB15, we have a request to approve beer application on-premises permit for 122 West at 122 West Lincoln Street. The manager, Ms. Kabila, I'm sorry, ma'am, pronounce your name for me. Cavalliswall. She will oversee the beer sales. So, do we have any staff report on this request? Mr. Quick? Okay. Do we have a motion then? We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any discussion or any questions for the applicant? If not, then we'll vote. With 7 yes, ma'am. So you're approved, and thank you for coming and waiting. All right. And with that, we are adjourned from the beer board meeting, and we'll return to our normal schedule. So in approval of the agenda, I'm sorry, we have a period for comment for citizens. So if there are any other issues besides the budget that anyone wishes to speak to tonight, we'll have a period of public comment for that. Seeing none, we'll move along. One of the things that I would like to entertain approval of the agenda with stipulation that we move the budget item to the last item on the agenda so that we can let other people get their business done and not have to wait through all that. So moved. All right, so a motion, push your button there if you don't mind. Yeah. So a motion and a second. Let's vote. Right. So that is approved 7-0. Reports from the alderman. I think I start over there. I'll start on this side. Mr. Toma.
Thank you. Where am I? Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to set the record straight. I was told, getting comments about my voting on the first reading of the budget, and I want to make it straight that it was not because I was against the tax increase. It was a procedural. I was concerned of voting yes for something when we hadn't even had a chance to discuss it. So I want to make sure that the supposed ambiguity is corrected, and I was never asked. The other couple of items, and we got a lot to go on, so I'm going to cut myself short on these. I was able to attend. The reason I missed the last board meeting, I went to a Tullahoma Utility Authority meeting. It really was a conference. Part of the requirements for being on the TUA board is 12 hours of education. That's required by the Comptroller of Tennessee, and the best way to get those are going and attending these conferences. I will state they were excellent and brought back some information. They had a financial advisor talk in regards to where she sees the economy for the next year and how that reflects on us. She thinks financing will be tighter. She feels like the economy, she doesn't see much growth in it. She says the uncertainty of the tariffs, uncertainty of the tax, where people are going to be staying tax-wise, is going to influence the economy. And obviously, as we saw with the May figures, people are not as confident on spending right now as we would hope they would be. But there were other things involved in that conference that was really, really good, and I wish I had more time to explain it. Other than that, I'll turn it over to Glenn.
In the interest of time, I have no report tonight.
No report.
All right. Ms. McGee.
I just have a short report. I did attend the school board meeting, and also, once again, I just want to thank the Tullahoma Parks and Recreation Department, J.P. Kraft, Jeff Devlin, Lyle Russell, and to Steve Berry for organizing and giving me the opportunity to be one of the speakers at the Juneteenth event that they held this past week. And I just want to tell them, job well done. Thank you so much. That's it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mayor. I was invited to attend by the Highland Rim Tennessee Trails Association, a group hike over the weekend on Saturday to Cumberland Caverns in McMinnville. And there was a great turnout for that, and we got to do a tour of the cavern, which is full of history and was a really great tour. So I just want to kind of give a shout out to the Highland Rim Tennessee Trails Association. If anybody you should really check them out, and they do some really neat outings. And if you ever get a chance to do that cavern tour, it's really interesting. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. TAEDC held a special call meeting. It was to approve the Summerlin TIF Developers Agreement. This is a contract for how the TIF will be paid back to the developer, and that did pass. And then also thank you to Kelly Lipczynski and TUA for inviting me onto their Talking Tullahoma podcast to discuss the proposed budget and what makes repaving roads so expensive. And Butch, if I said anything wrong during that, feel free to correct me.
All right. So the mayor's report, a couple of things. I too attended the Juneteenth festivities last week and really enjoyed that. And the speakers were very inspirational, including our Miss McGee here. She was excellent. But that was a great event, and I thoroughly enjoyed it and appreciate Parks and Rec and all the people that helped organize that. It's traditional for the mayor to give a state of the budget or state of the city and a budget address, and so I'm going to do that this evening. I've given a copy to all the aldermen. I think we've gotten a copy to the Tullahoma News as well, but I'm going to read what I patched together on this message. As we look at this proposed budget this evening, I want to express my thanks for the staff for their diligent work in preparing the draft budget and for the supporting documentation we have received. And I want to thank our aldermen for their diligence in reviewing the budget with detailed feedback during our study sessions. As I look at the state of the city and the budget challenges before us, I would like to emphasize three priorities that have guided my thinking and decisions moving into this budget year. First of all, roads and infrastructure, which we've been discussing heavily. For several years now, we have been facing a challenge with maintaining our road paving along with other needed infrastructure improvements. We've had some good progress this year with road projects in particular. The city has restructured William Northern Boulevard to Cedar Lane, accommodating new hotel facilities and improving traffic safety through a new streamlined direct routing. We've also started a project to improve traffic flow at the intersection of Country Club and Kings Lane, a key intersection in our city. Another success for this year was the repaving of the downtown portion of West Lincoln Street in 48 hours, a great accomplishment that minimized inconvenience to our citizens and the businesses located there. Our previous board instructed the Tullahoma City staff to do a review and bring recommendations on our road infrastructure. That review has been completed. Tullahoma has about 172 miles of road that we are responsible for maintaining. In recent years, asphalt costs have increased significantly, about 35% in the past 5 years. Our Public Works Department recommends that our roads should be paved every 16 to 20 years. Based on these numbers, it's estimated the current cost of paving in order to repave our streets every 20 years, the annual expense would be about $1.5 million a year. The city has increased spending on paving in recent years, but we are still far short, spending about $700,000 to $800,000 the last 2 years. We have received many comments on the poor condition of many of our roads, and the only solution to that is to repave on the proper schedule. Also of concern is the condition of our municipal building where we meet tonight. This aging building is in a deteriorating condition. Recent engineering studies indicate that there will either need to be major renovations to the building or replacement will need to be sought. Decisions about the path forward have not been determined yet, but we know this is a need for the near future. The second item I want to highlight briefly is public safety. As we consider where to receive funds and perhaps find places to cut, it's good to bear in mind that a key responsibility of our city government is the provision of public safety through our police and fire. This year's budget provides needed SWAT training and training ammo to our police officers and replacement turnout gear and gloves for our firemen. It also provides 4 replacement police vehicles, a fire vehicle, and building maintenance for fire stations 1 and 2, through the use of equipment and building reserve funds. And the third item I want to highlight is economic development and tourism. Our city's economic climate is key to being able to provide our cities with essential services. Tullahoma's economy is very strong in retail and commercial business. And in combination with our strong health providers network and the economic impact of the Arnold Engineering Development Complex, Tullahoma has a strong economy supported by sales tax not only of our residents, but also our visitors. Our sales tax revenues support both the city government and the city school system. So it's imperative that we continue to build our economic engine and work to diversify the types of businesses in our community. We are fortunate to have a revenue stream with the hotel motel tax that is dedicated by state law to economic development and tourism. This means that visitors to our city, not residents, provide revenue to support our key economic development partners, including the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation, the Tullahoma Airport, the Tullahoma Chamber of Commerce, and our partners in tourism development such as the South Jackson Performing Arts Center and the Tullahoma Fine Arts Center. Combined, these activities support the location of new businesses in our city, the support of existing business growth, and the promotion of our city to tourists and out-of-town shoppers. We must continue our support of these groups to make sure our economic growth is strong for Tullahoma into the future. So I want to say a few words about our tax base. Our city expenses are paid for by a variety of funding sources, but primary among our local taxes are sales taxes and property taxes. Our sales taxes have grown well in recent years with the addition of many new retailers in Tullahoma, but this year's sales tax growth is projected to be lower statewide, and we are already seeing lower sales tax receipts in Tullahoma this month compared to the same time last year by a significant amount. Our property tax growth, however, is much lower because of the way property taxes are controlled by state law. By law, when assessed property values increase in our city every 4 years after a full county appraisal, our property tax rates are lowered to give the city the same amount of revenue as the previous year. This is known as the certified tax rate. As a result, growth in the property tax only comes from new construction and growth of personal business property, or business personal property. It has been 13 years since the last increase in city property tax rates. In that time, inflation has increased the cost of items about 34% in the United States, and our population in Tullahoma has grown about 12%. The city of Tullahoma experiences inflation in its expenses just like you do in your home budget. As a result of the need for additional road maintenance and the prospect of upgrading or replacing our municipal building, this budget proposes an increase to the city property tax rate of 20 cents, which is a 10% increase to the city property tax rate. For a typical home in Tullahoma appraised at $300,000, this represents an increase of $150 per year in property tax. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen desires to ensure that if a tax increase is improved, steps should be taken to ensure that it is spent on its intended purpose. For this reason, the BOMA recently passed a resolution to amend the city charter guaranteeing that a fixed percent of the budget, at least $1.5 million a year, will be allocated to road paving. This will discourage future boards from shortchanging paving to meet other short-term needs. Above all, our city cannot function without qualified, dedicated staff. Our staff provides fire and police protection, road work, garbage collection, recycling, animal control, maintenance of our facilities and parks, planning and codes, and office support for finance, HR, IT, and other critical functions. This budget provides a 2% cost of living raise plus step raises for our employees for a total of about 4.5% across the city government. Our staffing numbers remain stable, and this budget will ensure we retain our staff and avoid costly turnover. As I conclude these remarks, I want to note a few more accomplishments in our city. Our Parks and Rec continues to improve our recreational facilities with the dedication of Joe Moon Field, the dedication of a new restroom and concessions pavilion at our Johnson Lane Soccer Complex, and several upgrades to the D.W. Wilson facilities. Our city schools continue to excel both academically and athletically. It has been my honor to start my service as your mayor, and I thank you for all your assistance, your feedback, and even at times your criticisms. I look forward to a great year in Tullahoma. And so with that, report from the city administrator.
I will be brief. Just want to remind the public that our fireworks celebration is going to be held Thursday, July 3rd. Gates will open at 4 o'clock. And I want to make sure that we give special attention to our sponsors. This year, our title sponsor is L&H Distributing, and we also have sponsorships with the Rogers Group, Ascend Federal Credit Union, Tullahoma Utility Authority, Minuteman Press, Smart Bank, First Bank, Cass Tennessee, St. John's Engineering, and Vanderbilt Heart and Hospital. I hope everybody can attend, and we're looking forward to an outstanding event.
Thank you. All right, with that, we passed the agenda, so that includes the consent agenda, and we'll move on to unfinished business. We've delayed the ordinance for the budget till the end of the meeting, so that brings us to item number 3, ordinance number 1652, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, to amend future compensation for members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for passage on the second and final reading. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just like to say for the two aldermen that weren't here, this is to eliminate a raise to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that would have come in 2032. It is to look forward on how to reduce budgets in the future also.
Okay.
That's all.
So if people want to raise it in the future, they'll have to do it themselves. So, Mr. Glick.
That's the point I wanted to make. They can't raise it themselves. And that is why this was voted by the board. It was before the board, before I was on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, that they voted this. And the reason why they did that in the future was so that they would have the opportunity to grow, because they could not at the time vote themselves a raise. So, but they can vote at that time not to have the raise. So I think that we shouldn't change that. I think it should be left to the future board when it comes up. It's 2032. It's I think it's premature to take that option away from them. Like I said, if they deem that they need to save the money at that time and not have the raise, they could vote for it themselves. But they can't vote.
Yeah, understood
Give
it.
themselves
I
a
just
raise.
meant it's a long time in the future.
Right, yeah, oh, yeah.
The board's
Yeah,
gonna
that's what, so,
address that.
The board at the time, to go back to the history of it, they voted several two raises, actually. One was the raise that we all received, and then the next one was the 2032 raise. So I think we should just leave it as is.
Any other comments? If not, let's go ahead and vote.
Which one are we voting?
Yeah, which way are we voting? No, we're voting on the ordinance to amend the future compensation for the boards of mayor and aldermen. And this would eliminate the raise if we vote yes, correct?
That is correct.
All right.
It would eliminate the
future
raise for
raise.
2032.
2032.
Yeah.
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 Well, they won't be able to change it, but they can in 2032. They could vote to delete the raise at that time.
I got you.
Yeah. Is everybody clear what we're voting on, what a yes vote means? Okay. All right. Let's vote. Two yes, 5 no, so that motion fails.
Makes sense.
I thought we did. All right, so I skipped the consent agenda, so I'm being corrected as usual. So let's have a motion. Let's have a motion on the consent agenda. And we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? It's merely the minutes this month, so let's vote. Thank you. All right, passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. But that finishes our unfinished business, and then we move into new business. Item number 25-67, a request from the police department to approve the purchase of one 2022 Chevy Silverado 1500 from Russell Barnett of Winchester in the amount of $34,498. Mr. Quick? I'm sorry. Mr. Quick, I'm going to just mess y'all up. I'm going to mix your names for the rest of my term, just so y'all know.
This was already approved in the previous budget. We are just now coming to you for actual approval on this vehicle. I want to commend our police chief and deputy chief. When it comes to shopping for these vehicles, they do a really good job of first determining what their true needs are and what they can get to fill those needs. This, again, is coming out of the drug funds. This is not coming out of our general fund or any other budget line item. This is strictly coming from the drug fund, and I hope that you will approve that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? We have a motion for approval, a second. Any discussion on that? If not, let's vote. Motion carries 7-0. We got several of these, so the next one, item 2568, a request from the police department to approve the surplus of 7 in-car new Motorola APX 4500s radios and use credit of $31,289 to purchase portable radios, batteries, and chargers from Motorola with a total purchase of $31,217.14, leaving a credit balance of $71,98 with Motorola. So we're trading in some old radios and buying some new radios, correct? Okay. So we have a motion, second on that.
So again, this is another example of all of our departments, but tonight we're going to focus on the police, where they're always looking for ways in which they can surplus or return items, but also get something of value back. I know previously this year we've looked at, I think, firearms and other things that we were able to trade in and out. So this is a great opportunity for us to be able to save that money, and I hope you will approve this. This is something that is definitely going to be an uptick for our people. And I also want to say thank you to Lieutenant Phil Henderson, who does an awful lot of the work that makes all of us look good, but especially on this particular item. He does an outstanding job of working with all of our vendors and making sure we get the best pricing we can get, and the relationships are strong.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a question on this. Sounds like a pretty good deal, and I'm not against it. I was just wondering if you could update. Is this the additional radios to the new radio system we purchased? Are they using the new radio system we purchased? I think
that'd be great. Let me have Chase give you an update on that, if you would come to the podium.
Okay, so what we had here was a surplus of, or we had more in-car radios than we needed. The portable radios are about $7,000 a piece, so we have enough radios for all our vehicles now as far as the in-car goes. But if we bring on anybody else for portables, we wouldn't have enough, so this will save us a lot of money in the future. So,
that's good. And that's part of the new radio system?
Yes, the ones we purchased for the attacking system.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, let's vote. Motion carries 7-0. Brings us to item number 25-69, a request from the police department to approve and authorize them to begin the application process for the State of Tennessee School Resource Officer Grant and execute required documents. The grant awards $75,000 per qualified school to ensure an SRO present at each school.
The application deadline, I believe, is the end of this month. This is the same exact MOU that we've signed in the past. In fact, not one word has changed from the one that we signed last year and this year. So this will allow us to maintain the SROs that we've hired on that grant for another year.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? If not, let's vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 8, item number 25-70 rather, a request from the city recorder to accept journal entries for property tax adjustments in FY25. Mr. Quick, can you explain that one for us a little bit?
I'm going to allow Lori to explain that.
Okay, Lori's going to explain
She's
it.
waiting
Sorry.
for me.
These are adjustments made by the county property assessor.
So you just get an update every year of adjusted property values, that, and then so you're just accepting them? Okay.
How does that reflect on the budget? You just amend the last year's
Well, I don't amend the budget, I just amend
the amend.
This is the appraisal amounts, right? So that would affect their future tax bill if it changes.
Okay, so it doesn't really reflect on the city. It's just, I saw some up, some down.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. We have a motion and a second for that. Unless there's any other questions, let's vote on that one. Just Just verifies that we got it. That motion carries 7-0. Item 2571, a software item, a request from the Finance Department to approve the renewal of the Local Government Corporation hardware maintenance agreement and software support in the amount of $68,606 and authorize mayor to execute the same.
So as you'll see, there's an increase of about 8% or $5,600. This will cover both all of our hardware coverage from a liability standpoint, from a recovery and backup standpoint, then also from a software support. This is basically what our entire city runs on from a financial perspective. Most of you will know it as local gov.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm familiar with this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, it seems like every year when you buy a software package, it comes with the, it's going to increase every year. I dealt with it in business. Do we anticipate an increase next year of 8%?
I don't know it'd be 8%, but I would guess you can anticipate an increase every year of somewhere between 2 and up.
2% and up?
That's what we've seen. We've seen it go up pretty much every year. Now, what we may be able to do is we're hoping to get rid of our dependence on maybe one or two of the modules.
Yeah, you pay on the workstation and then you pay. Yeah, familiar with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion second. Any other questions? Now, let's vote. That's 7 yes, and so that motion carries. And then item number 25-72, a request from the city administrator to formally reduce the sale price of $230,000 to $210,000 for 1201 Country Club Drive and authorize mayor to sign documents for closing. I assume this is part of our negotiation.
It is. As part of the contract that we had, the appraisal value came in at $20,000 less than what we were expecting, so we're just asking for the board to approve. Instead of us getting $230,000, we'll get $210,000. And we are set to close on that no later than June 30th. So within the next week, we'll be ready to close all of the documents for the transfers for the land that we've accepted from the Viteto's at 1107. It's going to be about 2/10 of an acre. So I have to compliment, he's not here, but our city attorney, Steve Worsham, has done an outstanding job in getting these documents put together and turned around in a very quick manner.
Jason, one of the questions I had, and we discussed, how much additional cost are we going to incur in regards to the tree removal and some other things?
By the time we looked at it, if I remember correctly, and I wished I'd brought that document with me, I think it's going to be a net of about $22,000 once you take into account the 2/10 of an acre that we're getting from 1107. So it was about, if I remember correctly, the numbers were about $44,000. $22,000 is going to be coming back to us. That's what 2/10 of an acre is valued at, that they're going to be donating to us, the Viteto's, for the expansion of the Kings Lane.
So what's the net?
$22,000 cost.
$22,000
in that ballpark. $22,000 cost for us. So
plus we're taking $30,000, so it's $53,000. That it actually the difference between that and the $250 that we bought it for.
Pay $250, right. We're going to be getting $210, and then you're going to add another $22 on top of that as far as the cost for it.
So it's going to be somewhere in the $195 range?
In that area.
I noticed they did a full appraisal on this property. Did we do that prior to us purchasing it?
That was not part of our agreement with them was to take as is. And basically where we see the appraisal coming from is there is inhabitable space or uninhabitable. And a lot of it, quite honestly, relies on the appraiser. Because the garage is vented, heated, and cooled, we accepted that as $1,200. The appraiser that came in after us would not give that same consideration for us.
So we actually did get an appraisal?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Because we're taking a beating.
All right. Any other comments on that? If not, let's vote. Seven yes. So that brings us now back to Our budget ordinance, ordinance number 1651, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026 for passage on third and final reading. I want to make just a couple comments here before we start. So this is our annual budget, and we've had a lot of discussion. I think some people have brought some amendments they want to make. I think our goal, at least my goal, is to get this done tonight. Otherwise, we're coming back sometime this week. We got people headed out of town next week on vacation, and I don't want anybody to miss a chance to vote or feel like they got excluded. So appreciate if we can get that done. And I think we can just go orderly one at a time with some amendment proposals. We can just work our way through this, and so appreciate that. So who's got something they want to start with? I know Alderman Byrd does, so it looks like we have several. Let's just start around the room. Then Alderman Byrd, why don't you start? Let's do one amendment at a time.
One amendment at a time? All right.
So we don't.
Gonna pass that around.
Yeah, let's have a motion in a second so we can get our thing. Let me just make one brief. So I said let's do one amendment at a time. There may be some of the stuff as we get into discussion where we decide to pass, it's going to imply we do several amendments all as a package or not. So we'll deal with that as we kind of do it. But to get the conversation started, and he's got one to hand out, which is great. All right, go ahead.
We could skip the top part at first. It's the directives to staff that I would like to talk about first. The first, I would like to direct the board to direct staff to work with Tullahoma City Schools to begin the transition of school crossing guards into the budget of TCS. This is not an elimination of much-needed crossing guards. It is the moving of responsibility to TCS. I'm recommending that this be a future change to the budget, but not immediate, because after reading the email from Dr. Stevens and then a phone call with her, it would be detrimental to do this without giving them more time to prepare. They need to identify where in this budget it would come from, create a job description, everything else that was read earlier. If we were to make this change tonight, they possibly wouldn't be able to do this in time, and it would possibly be a hazard to the children of the city. I did have to make a correction, which I hand wrote at the bottom. This would be a direct savings of between $25,000 and $30,000, and that's because of the roughly 2 months that it would take to move this forward. It would also be an indirect savings due to the hours needed from human resources and police for managing and supervising crossing guards.
Okay,
so I didn't know if that should be a board vote or just...
So I guess there's a couple ways to handle that. If we do a vote in the middle, we're going to have to, it's like a separate vote. It's not part of the budget amendment. I mean, right now, the money for crossing guards is in the budget for the city to do. And so I don't see a reason why we can't pick this up at the next meeting with, or we can get kind of asked informally, can the city start working on that? I think it's what we're saying here. Is everybody okay with that? If the staff kind of takes that on to go start working to transition that out, but leave it in the budget for now until we get it worked out.
So are we going to be requesting that we give the school system enough time to adjust it, and we'd hope they would be able to do it? They actually,
but 30 days is pretty
60
short.
days. Yeah. I don't know what kind of time period they would need. Do you have any idea how long it would take you to get this done?
It will be much longer than 30 because our people are out because it's summer break.
I understand.
So they won't be back into the admin building until July 7th, and it will require all of the things that were said. I mean, it's required from us, all the things that were said in the email.
Okay.
So
give us a time.
What is the shortest amount of time it can be?
Sure.
A September.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think we ought to make that part of it.
Well, I mean, we're not making an official vote here. We're just asking the city to start coordinating that.
And we've already started working on a plan internally on how to do that, make sure that it is as seamless as we can for the crossing guards, but also to make sure that we work very closely with Hank and with Dr. Stevens and others to make sure that all of the information they're needing is going to be there for them. Also, just to reiterate, the training of these school crossing guards, our SROs are still going to work directly with them, make sure, and we're even going to have a checklist created to make sure we've covered all of the training aspects needed for every cross guard that we have, or that they have. So I feel like it's going to be a very good partnership if we, if you were to, say by September 30th, I think we could definitely do that. I don't think it's going to be us. It's going to be more of them being able to take on those responsibilities.
I think procedurally, this just becomes a matter of when they're ready to pick it up, we make a motion amending our budget and reducing the dollars.
I respect their position on it.
Yeah.
We want to work with them.
Yeah, I do as well. What I don't understand is we are still going to have, we either have these people on staff now, or we're going to have to hire them, obviously, for the coming staff, the coming school year, yes. So I don't want it to be to where, I know a lot of the things that the school system said they'd have to do is come up with a job description and do the onboarding and all. I wouldn't want them to fire all the crossing guards we had and then hire all, ours should just move over to them. So that would kind of, the background checks would already be done. A lot of the stuff on their list of to-dos should already be done, so potentially the time frame might be a lot quicker than what we thought, but I think we give them all the time they need, and just...
by their statement, September 30 is a good point to shoot at. So I'd be in agreement with them.
I think it makes a lot of sense. It seems like a good fit to me for them to be working with the school, regardless of money. It just seems like a better fit.
It does. All right, so we're going to leave that with staff, and so go ahead, Mr.
On
Bird.
page 2, there is another, I'd like the board to direct staff to work with Samuel Luthi, our interim director of planning. This is to reduce the position of senior planning to planning assistant or an equivalent. This comes after a phone call with Samuel where he said that there is not currently a need for a senior planner. There will be a time soon that he will need help in the planning department. If we were to remove the position completely from the budget, it would be much more difficult for him to get the funds added back when the position is needed to be filled. And then the estimated savings, that's to be determined by staff for whatever the pay of a planning assistant would be.
So let me ask a process question here, Mr. Quick. It's not the board's position to dictate job titles and such, correct?
Usually, if there's a new position that is not in the org chart, it's something that we would bring before the board as far as a new position. And I'm not aware that we have a position called planning assistant. Lori, I don't know if you, I don't. So if it's something that's newly introduced to the city's org chart, then we would definitely bring that before the Board of Mayor and Alderman for them to.
So for the purposes of approving the budget, we could approve the budget as it is with an anticipation that when that position is filled, it will create a savings for us. Or we can make a motion now to reduce the existing slots paid, but then that doesn't make a lot of sense either. So.
I think potentially, since he doesn't really see the need for that position right now, is maybe we could take that position out of the budget and get the savings here, but leave the position in the organizational chart as an open position to be filled in a later budget.
Yeah, we just have to make an amendment again to add money back in if we do that.
Well, that would be next year's budget, or...
No, he's talking about perhaps this year. To think about what's happening with Summerlin. Summerlin's about to start work, and that's going to be a lot of work for the plan. I would anticipate he's going to need some help this year. Is that a fair statement, Samuel?
Yeah. I think that's more than a fair statement.
And that was my thoughts also with leaving the funding there, even though it might not be tonight that we address it. It is something in the near future we would be able to reduce that. Once again, this is looking to the future of the budget, not just for what we can pass tonight. Trying to do this in the most responsible way we can for the next year.
I think we will have to put some kind of dollar figure on it, though, won't we, if we're trying to arrive at a certain level of savings that we can quantify tonight.
Let me clarify. Is the funding for the full-time position in the budget right now?
For the senior planner, yes.
So, we got two options in my mind. Just leave it alone and we'll realize the savings later, or we can remove it now and then we'll have to find money to add it back later as a lesser position. What's the board's preference? Somebody make a motion if they want to.
I'll make a motion to take it out of the budget and find the money.
Okay. For now, it's just a motion to remove it from the budget.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second for that? All right. So we have
To remove the senior planner.
yeah. Position. There's nobody in that position right now. We're not laying anybody off tonight.
Are you
live.
taking the money from the budget?
Yes.
How much is that exactly? How much was in the budget for it?
Yeah, we need to know that.
About 93,000.
No, that's the senior. The senior
So-
planner is
so-
already
so
here. I'm a
just
little
to-
confused.
So let's clarify this right now, because this may come up multiple times. The line item in your budget is a total for that sort of work in that line item. So that could be 1 or 2 or 5 people, you know, it could be multiple people in there, so.
Not on this list, though, right?
Now, which list is that? Is that
On the list that he emailed to us for savings. This is just the one position.
Yeah.
Right, if you
That's
look
an
at,
open position. He's the director.
Okay, so the senior,
So
okay,
let me-
director and the senior.
Let me clarify what I'm
Okay.
asking. I think we should ask the budget director to tell us how much to reduce that line
Yeah.
and make a motion accordingly.
This is what-
Uh-oh, she's calculating.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to accidentally give other personnel a pay cut without realizing
should we
it.
take out the salary? I don't, insurance you leave alone.
The salary and benefits, that's why I was going to go.
Mhm.
That's my crumpled piece of paper.
Of course, the other thing is that goes across multiple lines because of benefits and retirement.
$115,093.
Is that the total, or is that just
That's the
the?
total of benefits.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that, Sue?
$115,093.
Senior planner, okay, yeah.
So can you read the motion as you typed it up?
Remove the senior planner position from the budget, it's $115,093.
That's total salary plus benefits.
So once we remove that, and let's say 6 months from now, he comes to us, do we have to amend the budget?
Yes.
So,
What we would do is we would bring the motion, or we would bring the item to you. You would have a job description, it would have a salary, and then we would have your approval to add that position to it, to the
So-
budget.
you really can't count on that, because that position could be filled in 6 months from now. So we're just playing with numbers, really.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
I mean,
That's
make
what-
things look good, but I just...
Actually, we need a second, or
thought
else
we
it's
had
a
one.
moot point.
Yeah, we got one.
And that's where my approach to that was that it might not be, sorry, are we still allowed to discuss
Yeah,
that? Okay.
absolutely.
We might not realize that budget savings tonight, but it would be similar to the crossing guard, that it's something that we would realize later in the year, but we're not requiring anyone to come back to the board to justify a new position and then increase the budget halfway through the
But what
year.
but I think what Mr. Quick said is that we would have to justify a new position because it's not the same position.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, I mean, you're right to some extent, just a comment here from the mayor. So you're right to some extent, we're kind of playing with the dollars. But on the other hand, it's a kind of conservative approach to say, let's pull it out, and then we have to deliberately put it back in. That's a little more conservative approach to the money.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we remove the senior planner position and say 6 months from now, Mr. Luthi will need some help, will it then become the planning assistant?
That's the goal, I
versus-
think.
And that's what the planning assistant, that 115,000?
No, that's the
okay.
current money that was allocated for a
Gotcha.
senior
For a
planner.
senior,
So
it'll
it
be
wouldn't be
more
as
or
much for
less.
the
Yeah.
assistant? Okay, gotcha.
In our conversations, we're thinking somewhere in the 55 to 60, 65 range tops.
Okay.
Is what that would come back at. But
Yeah, then it'll be half a
that's
year or so,
excluding,
or something like
that's
that, so
excluding
it'll be-
the benefit package.
Okay.
And that was my comment as well, is that, and later on, whenever they come back to the board for approval, you know, we can adjust also salary.
Yeah.
Where right now, we're locked into something that we may be able to find someone for less salary.
Well, so that's another thing to clarify, right? What's in the budget doesn't set the salary. That's how much money we've allocated towards it.
Right, it's just an allocation.
They negotiate salary depending on the applicant, I think. At least I hope we're doing that. All right, any other discussion on this amendment? Let's vote then. Seven yes. I believe you have one more, Mr. Burton?
Yes, so this is 3 amendments together. Would you like me to read a description before I make the motion? I'll make the motion first. So the first would be to reduce the budget of legislative travel training. That's page 37 of our agenda, legislative, line 280. Reduce it to $10,000. It is an $8,800 reduction. Historically, this is closer to the actual use of the budgeted funds. This may limit the end of the FY training, therefore we should also look into options of virtual or online training to limit the need for travel. The second is a reduction of the budget for Parks and Recreation, community centers, and I believe the correct line is maintenance and repair. That is reducing it to $2,508. It is a $14,500 reduction. And please correct me if this is the wrong line that I'm speaking to, but this funding was to be used for the purchase of replacement weight room equipment. It's an expense that could be added to a future budget and delayed at this time. And the third is an increase to the budget of police patrol traffic, purchase of small equipment, increase it to $26,650. It's a $9,000 increase. This additional funding is for the purchase of new vests that are going to expire this year. Currently, the police department purchases new vests on a rotation, so there's not need for one large budget item every 5 years. These vests will need to be purchased regardless, but adding this to our budget removes the need for the police department to make this a future agenda item to spend directly from general funds.
I'm tapping those all in one.
This also removes the possibility of not being able to purchase new vests if funding is denied, which would lead to our officers being at a higher risk.
So, just for the board, our recorder has been typing all that into a single amendment, which we can vote on it that way, provided everybody agrees that you want to vote on all 3 of these items, or do you want to separate them out? Is there anybody that wants to separate these 3? All right, then we'll keep them together. Any comments? They seem reasonable to me.
So, do you know what the net is, Matthew?
It would be, what's that?
The line item is 940,034.
940,034.
Is that the weight room item?
Is how much again?
$9,500, and it's 940,034.
So that would be the purchase of large equipment? Okay. There's only 9,500 budgeted there.
Yeah, and we had a line item for, I thought we had, did we already turn down the weightlifting equipment? I thought we had.
No, sir, we accepted that for the police.
So where's it at in the budget? I'm sorry, I'll get mine.
It's in purchase of large equipment under community centers,
Okay.
line 940,034. 262 is what repairs the current weight room equipment we have now.
Okay. So is this split between 2 different line items, 262 and 940?
No, that's not what he said.
I think that's what I heard Sue say.
And it's line,
I'm sorry.
and
Yeah, we're-
large equipment.
So it's okay.
So the line item 110-44400-262-034 is maintenance and repair of community center equipment. We have a community center weight room at CD Stamps and D.W. Wilson. This money is what we use with a company called Fitness Direct, and they make sure that all the equipment is working when something breaks. This is not something you can buy at Walmart or locally. They come from Brentwood, and they service our equipment 4 times a year. The purchase of the Smith weight room equipment is a new purchase, and it's over the line item to make, I think it's over $5,000. So that's the difference in 940 and 949. So the new weight room equipment you're talking about is in line item 110-44400-940-034.
Okay.
So are you talking about getting foregoing the new weight
I still don't
equipment?
see it in here.
Yes, but Sue, I would like,
It's on page, I'm sorry.
49.
It's on page 49, Mayor.
On page what?
49.
So it's on 940, I don't see any item for 14.5, which is what we
It's
said.
$9,500.
Right.
So
The other money is in
So-
repair, is what he was
It's
explaining.
in two different line items.
Okay, so it is in two different line
So what's
items.
the second line item?
Okay, so the first would be the reduction of the large equipment of 9,500, and then 5,000 of that is in the maintenance and repair.
Okay.
So forgive me, that's what I had named and misunderstood that, so I would need to change that to 9,500 coming out of line 940 and 5,000 coming out of line 262.
I'd like to suggest on that not to take the maintenance money, because that is a safety issue.
For equipment we have, for equipment we don't have?
No, that is the maintenance of the equipment we already have, correct?
Correct. So I don't understand how we ended up, how did we originally have a line item for the 14.5?
It was two line items combined.
But I don't understand why I'm asking, because we had a sheet of paper that said new fitness equipment 14.5.
Because we took anything they were adding that was new in this budget and put it back on the list we were asked to get to, for the board to look at with reducing value. We had added $5,000 to repair, and we had added $9,500 for new equipment.
Okay.
So the repair is for the older machines there, but it wasn't additional.
But it is new. Okay, okay. So we've only got 9,500 in
Okay.
equipment. Sounds
So
good.
that would be just 9,500 from line 940, correct?
940.
Okay.
Yeah, line 940 under 444.
34, 40, 34.
No, that's
You're
large
talking about
equipment.
under the-
Purchase of large
under
equipment.
Parks and Rec.
You just zero that line out.
And then 940, it should be near the bottom of the list.
Yeah, gotcha, thank you.
Or did
Okay.
we, Matthew, did you amend that to where we're just taking the
Yes.
9,500 and not the maintenance money, or did you want the maintenance money too?
I don't want to touch the maintenance money. This was just for the new equipment.
Okay.
And to answer your question before all the confusion, Kurt, that would be $9,300 reduction in total. That would be, I believe my math is right there.
I got 10.5, but. Was a $9,000 increase in the, for the vests.
Yeah.
A $10,000 decrease for the
No.
training.
No, it's two $10,000. The reduction is 8,800.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I
think he's right. I didn't do his
You're
math
right,
yet.
yeah, that's where.
Sounded about right.
That's where mine was wrong, yeah.
Okay, so a total budget reduction of $9,300 with this amendment.
Okay.
What?
So I have 8,800 this month, and then 9,500 for the larger segment.
Right, that's a lot. And we're purchasing 9,000.
So we're going to purchase small equipment of 9,300.
Yeah.
They've jammed it in too fast.
On line 949 of page 42. All right?
Is that like right, Matthew?
That is correct.
Any other discussion? Not, let's vote. Seven yes. Bird, is that all of yours for now?
That's
All right.
all I've got.
I have a comment, back to the crossing guards. I'm trying to keep a tally on how much we save. So can you guys tell me any kind of budget figure that I could put in for estimated savings on the crossing guards? Because it won't be the whole amount that's on this sheet.
I'd say it's 2/3.
Yeah, 2/3 of.
That's a guess. I mean, we don't know until we know when they.
So should I just figure like $20,000
That's up to you.
roughly? I mean,
I
it's
thought
33
I thought
on
it would be
here.
to take the number of 33,987
Yeah,
and divide by 12 and then multiply times 2.
okay.
It'll be like the amount of months schools in session. We don't utilize it during
There
the
you go.
days.
So it'll be 9 months.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's more like 10 months though. so. I guess they're out, some breaks and stuff. Has anybody got a quick estimate for that?
I think I got it.
I'd put down just an estimate.
26. I put 26.5.
So just in regards to that, the reality is whatever we do tonight, Ms. Wilson's going to have to go and incorporate all those things into her document, so we probably won't know the exact dollar amount on a few of these things until she has a chance to do that, especially with employee changes.
At least we'll know roughly.
But we'll know roughly. But if you're trying to keep an exact dollar value. it's
No,
probably not very-
So that was about 26.5.
It's pretty rough right here.
Yeah, okay. All right, Ms. Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. In a previous budget reading, I had stressed concern over, or voiced concern over how I feel that we are becoming really kind of top-heavy in our government. And my worry is that we're not able to sustain that, especially when we have some big projects coming up, like replacing this building, which I do feel strongly that we need. I mean, obviously, we need to do that. And then we also, at the same time, have a decrease in our sales tax revenue, which is disturbing. And this year's budget includes raises as high as 10 to 13% over the past 3 years for some top staff, even as we increase property taxes and dip into nearly $1 million of reserves. While we have outstanding employees that do a magnificent job, and I wish that I could give pay raises to each and every single one of them. But the reality is that we have to be able to afford moving forward. Even from the information that I was provided from Jason and from staff, and I've done a lot of homework on this, the cumulative raise of the top 15 employees alone is $167,407. The average raise per person was $11,160, and the average 3-year salary growth was 11.9%. Raises of 4 to 18% during a year of tax increases and reserve drawdowns are poorly timed. All the top administrators and directors received annual compounding increases of around 4%, which adds up quickly. Promotions across multiple departments with step increases up to 10%. Top line staff have seen increases while front line wages, like sanitation and maintenance, are stagnant or even decreased in some part-time roles. Several of these raises of 4 to 18% exceed inflation, and while we are asking for tax increases and reserve usage, city leadership compensation is rising faster than general fund revenue and without clearly documented performance-based metrics. And as I touched on, meanwhile, May's sales tax revenue was down over 7% compared to last year. So I would like to introduce an amendment to ensure we're living within our means while still rewarding staff fairly based on performance and economic health. And I'm just going to pass these out. That should be enough, that one. Lori, did you go on?
I didn't get one. Nope, I did get one.
So many governments offer a COLA-only raises during tough budget years. And I move that we adopt a resolution to condition any salary increases above the standard cost of living adjustment, specifically for administrative and department head positions, on the city's financial performance. This amendment will require that 2 basic revenue benchmarks are met before those higher level raises can take effect. Number one, that our local option sales tax growth reaches at least 3%, and that our general fund reserves remain at or above 25% of expenditures. If either of those thresholds are not met, then raises above COLA would be deferred unless specifically approved by a vote of this board. The standard COLA of up to 3% would still be allowed for all employees. And again, this is a safeguard, not a punishment, and it reflects our shared responsibility to align leadership compensation with the city's financial health. And I believe that it's fair and a measured step to protect our reserves and maintain public trust while we work through a period of slow sales tax growth.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
You said some people got more than a 10% step raise. Is that possible with our step system?
Steps are 2%.
So how did anyone get a 10% step raise if our steps are 2%?
Well, whenever I did the calculations, it was over a period of 3 years.
Well, then that's not a 10% increase in step for a year. That's a average of about 3.3, which is still higher than 2%. Can you name an individual who got more than a, are you adding their cost of living and their step together?
It was just the calculation from the fiscal year 2023 up to.
So that's just their pay. I mean, so
if you go down, I can show you like a list of the top 15 people that the percent increase over 3 years was up to 10%.
That's about 3.3% a year. So that's not excessive in my opinion. Maybe it's excessive in other board members' opinion. As far as your amendment goes, I see what you're trying to get at here. I assume this is based on some other communities that have done this. It's not terribly unreasonable, but the sales tax benchmark, it says the year-to-date local option sales tax growth rate must exceed, or that can't be year-to-date, because like the very first month of the year, you've only had 1 month data. It could be anywhere from -10 to +10. So you couldn't give anybody a raise for the first 6 months of the year until you saw how the averages worked out. So that might need a little work. But I'm not aware of department level people gaining much more rapid than the rest of our staff. And I think that's what you're getting at. Or are we just saying that the highest level people should not get raises as at the same percentage as everyone else?
No, I think that, and I don't know how that we, in exact detail, that would be, we would all have to think about how we would do that, but other cities have put this in place just so that we weren't living beyond our means.
Yeah.
Can you name a city?
Yeah, there was Chattanooga, hold on, I have a list here. Chattanooga, Hendersonville, Murfreesboro. Were some of them that have implemented that.
Those are a lot bigger cities than we are. I had an opportunity to kind of look over the salaries, and virtually, from my standpoint, I would love to have an opportunity, and if there's something available out there, to really give us a comparison against our cities of our size
and I think
and makeup.
The state has a salary survey.
It would really be nice to do it, because when I looked, and again, I think those things are the better gauge, and I like the idea, but we can't. Our employees can't control sales tax, and to base the top people on what sales tax are we going to reward them if the sales tax jumps?
I don't think that's what this says.
No, it would just.
Is that my understanding?
No, it would just be on any raises above the COLA.
Any raises above.
So that you would set it at 3.
Which would be reflected on, if I understood you, on the sales tax, how it goes up or down?
Well, that would be one thing, like, so if our sales tax keeps going down and, and our reserves, we're using a lot of our reserves, which makes me nervous.
I think, we've had this debate at the county side. When do you give a tax raise a pay raise? And to some extent, this is saying you don't give a pay raise unless you can afford it. That's basically kind of what's saying. If we don't have enough sales tax revenue, maybe we shouldn't be giving big pay raises. And I don't disagree with that. I think that this doesn't affect our budget this year directly unless there's somebody in violation of this language right now with the proposed raises coming into the next year. I've heard a lot of comment about, hey, how does our pay work? I don't think, at least I haven't seen yet, the existing board, we've not had a good sit-down study session on our current step system and what the values are on that. And we've had some discussion, we'd like to see salary studies and such, and the state does have one of those, and it does compare cities, and they've got it broken into large, medium, and small, and so you can kind of find where you fit and compare. I would propose that we save a detailed salary discussion for later after the budget's passed. I don't think we're going to want to suddenly change people's salaries right at this moment without doing that homework. But Ms. Wilson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we did do a compensation study. We did that did look at cities across mostly our size and also ones that were in our general region that would be direct competitors. So we have done that, and we do get information from MTAS every year also. So it's not a trouble to bring that back. And then also the two, I think, things you're looking at here are our pay schedule does a 2% step based on longevity. And then the other factor is whatever COLA the board passes. And that right now is proposed as 2.4%.
Right.
So not, like in this is 3%, but 2.4 is what is currently in this budget.
Right.
Basically, one of the hardest things to deal with is proper salaries. Dealt with it in business.
Yeah, it is.
I looked, and when I generally looked, I don't think as a whole any of our people are overpaid for the positions they're in. In fact, maybe totally a need to really, again, I like your thoughts. I really do. But I don't think this is the time to do it. I think the time to do it is when we get a chance as a board to sit down and then take your suggestion, and then let's go back and see where we're competitive with the other people in our positions. I used to do it. I used to check to see what my competitors were doing and what I was doing. You have to. And I just think at this particular time, promoting this tonight would be more appropriate if we got together and considered the options. So
I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
Well, I like the plan. I think it's a really good idea to safeguard the city for when bad economic times come. But what I'm starting to consider about all this and the pace of the meeting tonight is that would it be possible, and this is a question, if we could pass a continuing resolution to just keep the current funding, until we can pass a budget, pass a continuing resolution where we don't have a budget finalized on June 30th for July 1st. And then we can get together and we could have more time to look at this, because I know we had budget meetings and study sessions and a lot of stuff was presented to us, but we actually didn't get a completed budget to really look at and weren't told that there would be a tax increase to fund the budget until about 4 days before the first time we voted on it. And then the second time I'm
going to stop you there.
Voted on it.
Because that was discussed in study sessions months ago.
I might have missed the study session when the tax increase was discussed. Okay. So, because I did miss.
We all did.
However, and then at the second reading of the budget, I know Mr. Toma and Ms. Wilson weren't at the meeting, and here we are at the third, and we're trying to cram all this in. And really, I think that there are really some good ideas presented, and Mr. Byrd had some good ideas, and there's good ideas presented by staff. But I think in some things might take a little more time. We might need to look at our whole aspect of the way we do things and get a little deeper into it. So I don't know, and like I said, it's a question. I don't know if that's a possibility, if anybody's even interested in doing that. It would just give us more time to maybe pass budget.
So that would delay raises for our personnel until we got that done, and what you just described sounds to me like we could take 2 months doing.
Yes, what they've done in the past is you still get the full amount of the raise, but you're not, but you get caught up on the amount of money you get back paid, the amount of, in the raise.
So what do we anticipate would be the major action that we would come out different than with if we were to proceed on trying to sort it out tonight?
Well, I think we need to get a little more deeply into some of the way we do things. I don't know that we're doing things exactly right and all the times, and maybe we are. And maybe it's something that we just hold off and look at next year's budget. But
I think if we're going to say we have to delay, we need to be very specific about the items that are causing us delay. I don't think we can say our general procedures might not be right. I think we need some concreteness there. I do think we need to do a serious budget study, a salary study, if no other reason than so that all the board members understand better going forward. I just don't think we got time to do it before the budget's finished.
No, exactly, and I don't think the salaries are the only thing. For instance, I have a couple of ideas. First of all, the city engineering. Would it be more cost-effective for us now to hire an engineer instead of seeking outside engineering services? I know we pay a pretty good chunk of money every year in engineering. Would we save money to hire an engineer and probably get better service?
So,
potentially.
So let me pause here because Ms. Wilson's got things on the table here, and that's a different topic.
That's what I was saying. It
Yeah.
would take more time.
Yeah.
I just have a
Yes,
quick
ma'am.
comment. From my HR background, your employees are your greatest asset. And I agree with Alderman Toma that looking over the salaries, I don't think that anyone is overly paid. As you know, in my opinion, some aren't paid enough for what they do. I think it is a good idea for us to look at competitive salaries compared to cities our size. But with this being a cost of living increase, everybody needs what they can get right now. So that's just my opinion.
I have one more question. The other comment that I've heard several times over the last week is we're getting top-heavy. I don't understand the basis for that. I don't believe we've created any additional management positions anywhere in the city. What's the basis of saying we're getting top-heavy?
Well, and I had, there's a lot of documents in here, but there's a document in our budget or an email that we received that shows some of the departments, how they've jumped, let's say, from like 5 to 9 full-time employees, and that's where I'm drawing that from.
Well, that's not top-heavy, that's just more employees.
And that's based on
But
need,
I think
isn't it?
so based on what I received from our staff just this week, our total employee count in 2023 was 164. In 2024, it went to 169. Last year, it went to 170. So that it only went up one person in total in full-time staff last year, and we're only proposing to go up one more person in full-time staff this year. That doesn't sound like a large increase to me out of 171 people. Mr. Quick.
I think one of the things when you look at the budgets and it talks about, payroll or that expense is up, I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, with planning and codes, it shows they're up 34%. But what that is we took 34% compared to the last budget, but we took an employee, Nick Kimbrough, out of fire and put him over there. So
Right.
we just transferred the money over there. Same thing with Public Works. We have an employee that may be retiring, so it shows we're up 35%, but that's the expected payout for that retirement.
I know we had a document showing a large number of promotions, but all of those were basically promotions from within the fire
Yeah.
department to existing, so we didn't create any existing new positions.
Now, the stormwater showing it's up 116%, and that's because we went from a part-time position to a board-approved full-time position for a stormwater employee. So that's what creates some of those jumps.
All right.
Yeah, we went over comparing the last work session. We virtually spent all our time looking at the various departments and increases and so forth and so on, and all that I thought was properly explained.
Right, because there was a need for those positions.
I guess what I'm referring to is it's somewhere in this budget packet, but I'm unable to locate it now, but I had it in an email, that the number of full-time hired fiscal year 2024 was 64 compared to 27 in fiscal year 2021.
Yeah,
And
so we've had hirings, but we haven't increased positions. Those are replacing people that left.
I believe
That
that would
seems like-
that would also be with the turnover rate.
And from
Yeah,
eight-
now the turnover rate may be a
Turnover
concern
rate's
there.
Full-time promotions was one of them from fiscal year 2021 was, it was up 35 from 8.
Yeah.
So, I
Into-
mean,
but
that's
those-
just where
But those
some-
are existing positions that we didn't create new positions to promote them into.
That's being
They were backfilling positions that already exist.
Most of your promotions are generally going to be tied to your police and to your fire departments, where you'll have a fireman go to an engineer, or you'll have a reserve fireman who now becomes a full-time employee, so that is considered a promotion for him. So that's where you see most of those promotions. We have had some promotions from within. So, for example, we had a young lady who was working at the front counter in finance. She received a promotion to go to the accounting position. She has since received another promotion to go to another department. And then we've had another one that has followed that same track. So we do try to promote from within when we can, but I think a lot of these promotions you're seeing are going to be coming from fire and from police.
So, go ahead.
But
Is this
no,
in relation to the amendment? We have
Yeah,
one-
I know we need to move on, but I appreciate this.
Yeah.
But I think it's not the time to try to incorporate it in this year's budget. But it is stated by Kurt, we need more time in the future to really dig in, not just to hand out a piece of paper on the third reading and try to make decisions on. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'll agree, because some of the information, we just recently got on Saturday morning, so.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest, especially at the final reading. So that's what I would recommend, it's your motions.
One other thing, if I could throw this out there, and I know there was concern about getting some of that information. Unfortunately, some of our systems are antiquated, and so, for example, there was one where we had to go back to a software vendor. I had Lori call them and we had to ask a special request, which means they wrote kind of like a report. Should that happen? No. I mean, we should have updated systems. We're going to be bringing to you perhaps a recommendation later in the year for us to add the payroll module for UKG. The HR has gone extremely well. We've got that implemented. When it comes to doing the payroll, the report package, that's where we could hit press, enter, and then we can create our own reports, and it's going to be a lot faster than what we've had to do. So a lot of what Lori did, if it didn't come from the software vendor, she basically just got out and just started researching it from scratch and having to pull that in there. So that's part of that overall focus that we have from a technology standpoint, is we're trying to become more efficient in what we're doing and trying to get that information as soon as we can possibly get it.
One of the things I would like to say about that is that as we stumble across these things this year, please write them down. And after the budget gets done, then we can start saying, hey, next year, we'd like to see this set of information, so the staff has a long time. And my second comment on that is, my experience is just, this is the way budgets go, because staff is trying to close out a year and generate a new budget all at the same time, and you can't put it together too soon, because then it's not complete. And so you kind of end up in a time crunch every time.
We never, I didn't finish my thought about when I was asking for if we had more time, and I think we could save some substantial money, and if we looked at the systems and the way we do things now, I was given the city engineer as an example. Mr. Quigg, do you know approximately, or maybe Butch, know approximately what we spend on engineering?
Hold on. Let's come right back to that.
Okay.
But we've got an amendment on the floor, and that's not part of that amendment. Do we want to deal with this amendment? Do we want to vote on it? Do you want to withdraw it? What do we want to do?
I'll withdraw.
Okay, so we're going to withdraw this amendment. Go ahead, Kurt.
Do you know approximately what?
So, ironically, I asked for that today. I think from an engineering standpoint, we're at $296,000. Now, what I can not tell you is exactly how that's broken down. I was given a general number, but how much of that is contracted, what's stormwater versus project is not something that I have. I don't have that availability at the moment. I could probably get Paige to look at that.
So now, the question there is, can you hire one engineer that can do everything that engineering firm was doing? I can't do it. Yeah.
Would you mind if Butch came up and addressed that?
No.
Yeah.
What I've seen in my 30 years of doing this, smaller governments like us, you can hire an engineer. You're going to get one in here. You may get one fresh out of school. You may get one for 140, 150 grand. They're going to build a resume, and they're going to be gone in a year and a half, 2 years. I can tell you that's already happened in other cities around us. I'm not going to say who, but that has happened. Or you're going to find an engineer that's probably looking to retire out. They may come in here for a year or two, and you're going to be replacing them. You can't jump into these projects that we're already in and expect somebody to come from the outside to pick up these projects. It'll end up costing more in the long run. You can hire a civil PE, but they can't come in and do all the stormwater, so they're still going to have consultants. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, we've looked at this several times over the years. If you go back to Mr. Baltz's day, we've looked at it. I don't see how that's going to work and save you any money, because if you hire an engineer, you're already at 150 grand, if you can get one these days for that. And then you start adding into consultants for the stormwater, TDEC projects, TDOT projects. One engineer can't do that. So it's just my thoughts. I mean, we have in the past looked at that, and I just don't see it working, but that's up to you guys.
And
Go ahead.
And another thing along the same lines, I was saying, look at these things to cost them out and say, maybe it works, maybe it can't. But another one was the city attorney. Would it, or have we reached a point to where we could hire a staff city attorney instead of having a contract?
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at different things as changing the way we do things to meet the future needs. I mean, we can't always go back and say, we've been doing that for 40 years, so that's the right way to do it. It may not, may be, and it may not be.
So I'm all for examining those things all throughout the year. I don't think we're obviously not making that decision tonight.
Of course.
Ms. McGee, did you have anything?
No.
Coach, you got anything?
If we pass a tax increase, one thing that I want to make sure that it's stipulated in that money that is earmarked for roads goes to roads and not ended up over here in a car somewhere.
And that's what we stipulated in the.
That's what we stipulated, yeah, we did.
Okay, so, yeah.
But that's something we need to do. And I've noticed that throughout the city, most of the people I have talked to, you'd be surprised, are for a tax. Some are not, but a lot of them are, because they feel like that in order for us to get what we want and what the citizens want of this town, they're going to have to pay for it. And if we can't pay for it, going through what we're doing right now, trying to go through each department and taking people, that's not a good idea for me. Okay.
Mr. Wick, we got amendments?
I don't have any to present right now. I thought we were going to go through the list presented here. I had comments on that.
Which list was that?
The list that was emailed to us.
But which list? We got several lists.
I only got one.
I couldn't.
I only
You're
got
talking
one
about a
list.
list of possible cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're glad to go through. You want to, I don't have mine actually.
We've already talked about a couple of them. Okay, the school crossing guards, we already accepted that, a portion of it. The senior planner. Do we want to just go down the list? I mean,
I couldn't find mine before I left, and I figured one of y'all would have it.
yeah, I am not, definitely not for cutting out the annual fireworks, especially in our 250th year of celebration. Actually, I was going to make a proposal maybe to, and it could come at a later time, for you to form a committee, because I think we should have a whole year of celebration, because it's not just for the past, but for the future and everything Tullahoma has presented to our city. So I think we could take out the Rock Creek Concert Series.
How much was that?
That is $28,000. Community service organizations excludes the library and the senior citizens. That means cutting out all of them except for the library and the senior citizens. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I have thoughts on that. I think everybody got this letter, I hope. I gave it to Jason, and it was given before the last meeting. My comments on this is I have a real, and I'll state this right up front, every one of where the community service are good causes. Every one of them. I've been on the board of at least one, and then I have contributed financially to various one of these over the years. As I stated, my major issue is here we're trying to find ways to cut money, to take it from our departments, which I think the most important thing in our responsibility is using tax dollars for city needs, and to turn around and give it away, even though they're all good causes, I don't think that's our responsibility. Now, in stating this, I challenged everybody to go through and look at these budgets. Look at the information these people sent us. I didn't make it up. We asked for the financials, and we got it. There's not one that I think is going to perish if we do not fund their needs, except for the senior citizens. And I question, to be quite honest with you, I think they need help. I think they need somebody or someone to come in. I think the ladies that run it are awesome, but I think they need help. And I think that if we do give them money this year, remember, we give them a building, we pay for insurance, we pay for this, it's like $38,000. And I looked at it, they also showed their utility bill at $26,000. That's twice as much as what this building here. And so bottom line in this, I don't have a problem with what we're showing now. I understand we have to give the library $15,000, is that correct?
Yes.
I wonder if Manchester is matching their library over there. But in material, I'm comfortable with that. The only other two items that I brought up is the fact that which I'm very in favor of, is recycling. The problem is we're paying $746,000.
All right, hold on. Let's stick to the one first, and we'll come back to that. Let's go one item at a time. So right now we're talking about these community service organizations.
Okay. So what do you want to do?
Well,
my motion is to keep it as proposed.
No, on all the community services?
Yeah.
Or what's on?
What I'm talking about is what you designated here. Where is that?
No, not what I've designated. So this is just a list the staff gave us that we could
The
consider.
suggestion from staff.
Yeah, so, sorry, where is this one at?
What is that?
It's near the top. It's near the.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I can see it. Yeah.
58,000.
So there'd be a savings of $58,264 excluding the library and senior citizens. So there would be elimination of all of that.
That's correct.
Okay, so is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
So there's a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second from Mr. Burke. So it's this community.
I'll second.
Organizations. It's It's,
There is no,
This number excludes similar.
it's these lines right here, and everything else would be excluded. All right, discussion. We've already had some, but,
That's my discussion.
I didn't do this second on this one.
okay. And she wants
this
to-
is a different item. She's
Yeah,
still
this is-
typing.
Okay.
Okay. So we do have a second
Are you
to,
saying
No, you don't have a
that
second.
we fund only two?
hold on, let's get a second. for-
I second.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody
That's fine.
did.
Yeah. Well, that's old. She's.
It's on another one.
Go ahead.
Are you stating that we fund only two?
That is correct.
Senior citizens in the library.
Correct.
All the others that we are funding at the present time, we
Now, this doesn't count the tourism ones, it's a hotel motel tax.
No,
This is
this is
just
community
the
service.
community service.
No, we can't do
organizations, yeah.
virtually.
So you want me to read the list?
And it has to be the two, right? Because we're obligated because of the building.
What's that?
Partly,
Yeah, so
Probably,
like
yeah.
we have to leave the two
I think we need to
That's my
study.
in there
understanding.
because we own the building.
Well, we own the building, but
Right.
we're also providing other services that are involved.
So let me read the ones that would be eliminated under that.
Okay.
Civil Air Patrol for $736. Let's see if I can let me. Humane Society for $2,500. 114 Southwest Atlantic for $4,000 repairs. Skills Development Services for $2,086. The Tennessee Rehabilitation Center for $4,906. The Tullahoma Daycare Center for $5,888. South Central Human Resources for $2,574. Tullahoma Sports Council for $25,000. Casa Works Incorporated for $3,000. Horseplay Incorporated for $3,000. Imagination Library for $1,574, and the Tullahoma Community Foundation for $3,000. All those would be eliminated. I have concerns about CASA, but
You have concern about what?
CASA, because it's Child Advocacy Center.
I got you.
It's very good, but you want to know what kind of money they have?
I'm just saying, it's a,
The issue I have, if you look at these, and you look at what their balance sheets, all of them have money. They all have money. I'll give you an example, and I was on the board. Skills Development Service, great organization. Their budget shows that they would have over $500,000 profit. I mean, go through it, look at it. If I'm wrong, I'll be more than happy. And yeah, but they're not in a position, other than the senior citizens, to pack their bags. They got, so any of them that you want, I've got it written down. I'll be more than happy to tell you what they got.
Does the sports council still have a lot?
$172,000 according to theirs. It might be down to $150,000. You want to know how they get their money? They get it from us. They had, well, I don't really want to get into it because I don't want them to think. I think it's a good organization, but we fund it and they take our money and decide what to do with it. Their banquet for 2024, they had it as a revenue of $25,000 and they spent $30,000. Okay? $25,000 from us, about $6,000. They've got an endowment that can't be touched, the principal, and they make about $6,000. And then they got about $1,300 from miscellaneous. Now, that's on their deal. So they've virtually been accumulating $25,000 and then saying, and I think, I talked to Jeff about it, and I think the purpose of it is good, but they're virtually, in my opinion, using city money, and I'd rather have that money given to the recreational department if we need to, and let them work with them. Again, all these are good causes, but if you took that $25,000, we could almost buy a washing machine for the fire department. We cut that out of the budget, but we can give away $25,000. I just don't think that's right, guys. That's my opinion.
any other comments or questions? Anybody want to make any comments? We've got an amendment on the floor for that. Ms. Wilson.
I only have one comment on the Sports Council. The other thing you may want to think about, we'll be bringing back motel tax information later. You may want to consider, Sports Council was originally thought of as being something for sports tourism. you may want to look at putting them under the hotel motel tax when we go to redo that, consider where that
Later on.
goes.
Yeah, my issue with that is $25,000, they'd have to bring in $900,000 in sales tax to cover it. That's what it is.
Oh,
The
you
voted-
just-
yeah. It takes an awful lot of games and stuff to do it. And most of the stuff they have in there, we funded that through our Little League. We funded our equipment. We didn't give away scholarships. It's a good thing. I think it's a good source of information. The people on there are a good source. But I don't think we ought to be funding that with taxpayers' money.
Y'all ready to vote? Last chance. All right, let's go.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're voting just for the two.
We're voting to eliminate the funding for everything but those two. The list I just read would be eliminated.
Only planning, library, and senior center.
That motion carries 5-2. That's a hard vote, so appreciate y'all.
The only
Comments,
other two
sorry.
comments I had were stated in here, and again, are three. We do recycling, which I think is a great thing. Always have done it. The problem is, we're paying like $749,000 for it, and get, I had two different figures, so I'll use the high, 190 in return. The question in my mind is, what do we get from the tipping? How does that offset with us not putting garbage?
Yeah, because we discussed, but can you come up, Mr. Quick, can...
Yeah, hold on, we calculated this, and this is what I tried to email you that is sitting in your box. It's okay. Hold on. I'll let you do it.
Okay, recycling does actually pay for itself when you look at, we're not getting a whole lot in the market, depending on what the rates are for cardboard and usually mostly commercial cardboard, cans, etc. But what you're saving is your tonnage. You're diverting your tonnage from the landfill, and your tonnage is costing you $58 a ton. And the last numbers I had, we were diverting over $10,000 pounds a year from the landfill, meaning what was happening is you take the cost of around 700 and something thousand in expenses, you got about 150-ish in revenue, but you've got about 600,000 in landfill savings.
Perfect.
So we're actually coming usually 30-40 to the good when you figure that out.
I think that explains it, because that's a big hunk of change. The other area that I looked at was the leaf and brush pickup, which we spend $600,000 on. That's 10 cents. And I'm not question we do it today. In the future, we may need to be looking at a fee for that. Get some return on it, because not everybody, west side of town maybe, the east side of town, probably not.
Yeah, I think...
But that's not a budget item when I was thinking we were going to have to cut it. The other comment I'll say is, I question whether we'd be even asking these questions and grinding into this if we weren't specifically requesting money for an item. Meaning that, will we have continued to go ahead in our general fund as we are now without any increase?
What do you mean? I don't...
Well, the point being is, if we're looking at reducing 10%, we're at 195, we're dropping it down to get in the general fund, we're going from 195 to 175 to handle our expenses. That's what we're doing, because we're specifically stating the tax for the roads and for the city hall. So let's say that those weren't even on the table. Do you think we would be looking at an increase in the general fund? Or in our taxes?
Okay, so...
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Well, the general,
So the first question is there an increase in the general fund apart from the increase in roads?
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
It's called pay raise.
Okay, but will we be able to handle it with our current
So
tax rate?
we're pulling out of reserves right now for that, correct?
We're looking at, when you take the paving and the repairs to the building out, your budget is still is going up 2.8%, and you're still using 900,000.
So we're living on our reserves.
This year.
This year. We are assuming that we'll be able to make that up next year with revenue?
We're hedging our bets because we don't really know what the economy, just like you were saying, is going to do in terms of our sales tax.
And isn't that kind of a counting device, Sue, that you've used to balance the budget going in, and then we actually do better so we don't actually have to use those reserves?
Yeah.
Last year.
Hopefully not.
This year, we're using a little bit of reserve this year, this budget year, correct?
I think we will, but we budgeted, maybe 7, and we probably won't use all. I don't see us using maybe half of that.
Okay. So there's a chance we're going to use some of our reserve. Our reserve is healthy, but I think that's
a question that we're
this to me is where going forward, we have to say, now what can we start doing right now throughout the year to be looking at ways to stay tight and give ourselves a chance. We've got future growth coming in Summerlin, and that's going to generate more retail. Can we stay lean until that catches up and live on our reserves just a little bit? But we got to be lean, I think.
I certainly agree with that.
Yes.
Therefore, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the budget with the amendments as.
Hold on, we still got a couple of things to look at here.
Oh, we got?
We got a few more items on the list, but I appreciate that.
Okay, well, that was,
I
I thought you were asking specifically for me.
So the other, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I need an amendment, please, Mayor,
Amendment for,
to add the Tullahoma City Schools budgets that were presented in here. They'll require amendment on third reading each time when they're added. So I need someone to amend, to add
Did I
those
put the
also.
what will they need an amendment for?
Because they were not in the second reading.
my sheet, so we're
Oh.
going to go down.
Tullahoma
Let's go
Schools.
on.
They were not in
Okay.
the second reading.
That's your,
Right, they
that's your
did not get an
turn.
opportunity to approve them.
I'm finished.
They've been approved between second and tonight's reading.
So we need an amendment tonight to add, to accept the school budgets as included in your.
Okay,
packet.
well, let me, just don't forget that, because we're working our way through this list, and we'll come right back to that in a moment.
I've finished my comments.
No, that's okay, thank you for that. And so, but Mr. Glick started down this list here
Okay.
that we were provided, so let's just go run through them real quick. Police SWAT training and equipment, to me, that stays.
Yeah, keep that.
That's just me. Police training ammo. Anybody want to, I'm just going to read these, and if anybody wants to discuss them, let me know, otherwise we'll move on. Fire turnout gear. The weight room equipment we've already dealt with. Legislative training we've already dealt with. Then we had open positions, senior accountant. Go ahead.
I think we not hire that this year.
So I think there's some discussion to be had about that one. As I understand it, that's a pretty desperate need for the department right now.
It was a need that quite honestly, it was budgeted. It was budgeted for this past year. Sue gave up her position in order for us to get the additional IT support that we needed. So she's already gone this last budget year without that senior accountant. It's a pretty big job. I would hate for us not to have that senior accountant this year, because I mean they're running.
And did we have that position in the past?
Yeah.
So this isn't the creation of a new position, this is refilling a position we've left vacant for a while.
It was the position that Paige had, and a lot of the purchasing and those types of responsibilities. And then we would be adding a few more to that position as well.
I mean, if somebody wants to make a motion on it, they can, but.
I'll make the motion to reduce it this year.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? Hold on, she's got to type it in, yeah. But in the meantime, do we have a second to remove that position? All right.
I would like to make a comment on that one.
Yeah.
So when we were given this list, one of the things I did was I started calling every head of the department to discuss with them every item on this. So in talking with Sue, this one has been vacant since I believe it was FY '23. Currently, it's needed to help with TIFs for TAEDC, like what we just passed for Summerlin. That is a position that would be able to help with grants to bring more money into the city, and that they could also be looking into, and this part I don't really understand, I believe it was better forms of debt services and automated pay through, is that through UKG?
This hasn't been open, I mean, I don't think this has been, not since '23, it hasn't been vacant. It's just been 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been.
Maybe that's right. I wrote wrong.
Page was, yeah.
When Paige became the Assistant Director of Finance, we did not backfill her position.
Yeah.
But it
And then
isn't.
the other,
Overtime as much as we could to keep.
the other concern with that is we have two former employees who have retired that are now serving in part-time roles, trying to take up some of that. I'm not sure how much longer they want to keep coming to work every day, so I think that's something we're looking at as
I
well.
mean, basically, Paige took a vacant position.
Yes.
And somebody kept doing all her work too.
Yes, sir.
So would that delete, so if you hired this new position, would that delete the contract workers then? So there'd be savings there?
Right, that would drop that back. We've had to increase that. a lot.
Okay, how
That's what we
much,
had.
can you estimate how much that would be savings, and if we kept that in and deleted the, I guess, 1099 employees? Or would you even be able to? That's a question, I guess.
Be able to.
It'd be reduced, but.
Would you
may
be
not
able
want
to
Reduce
reduce?
what we've had to
Oh, yeah.
pay. Basically, you would be down to, let me see how much I had to put in. You should be able to drop at least 15,000 from there if we fill the position.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to leave that accountant position in and take the $15,000 of savings through, I guess,
Whatever that line
part-time
item is.
employee, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Can you interpret what that means?
It's 190 professional services.
190 professional services.
So does that mean that we would not be bringing in the retired contractors? Is
It's
that
a
right?
reduction.
Okay.
Reduce them, they might,
Hours.
yeah, they might
And
reduce
the other
hours.
thing is, right, if there becomes some desperate need, we can always come back and approve it.
Yeah, that's a good thing about, that's a good thing about contract.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we weren't about to put even more stress on finance by saying they couldn't bring those people
Yeah, I
in the
understand.
interim.
No, they said it would reduce.
Can you say your motion again?
The amendment, it was to,
She
my
had a line-
original
She had
motion.
a line item. What was the line item again, Sue?
It's a 190 professional services under finance.
is to, my original motion was to take out the senior accountant out of the budget, but the amendment is to leave it in, but realize the savings in the 190 account in finance.
15,000.
For $15,000, estimated 15.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? If not, let's vote on that one. We're voting to reduce the contract labor in anticipation of the other spot being filled.
I must have
I got
said too
blocked
much,
out.
my thing blocked.
Yeah, I had
There's the
to,
X in the top
Oh,
right-hand
no.
corner,
Yeah.
and then you just log back in.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I had to do the same
Wait a minute.
thing.
Yeah.
That's too complicated for me.
That happened to all three of you guys?
Oh, yeah.
It happened to me too,
Yeah, it
and
did. All of us.
I'm the only one that didn't. I don't know.
I got it.
Probably do me next on the next vote then. Bush, it shows you is not voting yet.
Oh, wake me up, I was looking. Thank you.
All right, 7 yes on that one. All right. The next.
That was, excuse me, I just want to procedurally be right. That was amendment. Do we have to vote on the amendment and then vote on the
I took it
motion as
a friend- I
amendment?
took it as a friendly amendment. You modified your original.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, cool, cool.
Since it was your amendment, I just.
Yeah,
we
good
can-
deal,
We can
good
do
deal,
that.
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that,
So the next item that is on the list, which I do not recommend at all, is a vacant TAEDC director, because obviously that position is working to be filled right now. I think we're going to have some good recommendations from state economic. When they were down here visiting with us on the site, they were putting bugs in there. It's like, hey, let us know when you're hiring. We got people to recommend. So I think, and we already started, haven't we, Beverly, on the hire process? Yeah, so.
it's posted.
I'll agree with that, and I don't know if it's the time to discuss it or not, but I would make a motion to move that position where it is within the city and answers to Mr. Quick, and then performs as a liaison with the TADC board, much like Samuel does as a liaison with the Planning Commission.
I disagree with that vehemently. That's not the way any of the other industrial boards work, and TADC is technically an industrial board. You need the directors to be able to direct the person doing the work for the TADC board. They do a lot of work independently, legally. All the things related to tax increments, pilots, that's such that the board is empowered to do. We've had no issue with that working arrangement, to my knowledge. It's been a matter of convenience to have that person through the HR system, but I think that person should answer to the board, otherwise the board has no power.
Does the staff have any comment on how they would like that to be?
I'm going to leave it to the board.
Can I just say, the TADC and airport are separate entities, they're separate component units of the city, but they have their own separate
They're incorporated.
identifications. They're separate corporations.
I'll take that back then.
I mean, we can talk about ways to improve that relationship if we need to. I think I'm all for that, but I wouldn't want to do that. We have a vacant investigator slot. This is the next item. Any comments on that? Is that an existing slot that?
It is. It's one that's come up, and we've had one that's resigned and moving out of state.
Okay. I wouldn't want to reduce the police force if we don't have to.
No.
And then the other one is the aquatics coordinator, which I know has been communicated to me. There's JP. You want to tell me the hours y'all are working because of that being open? You mentioned that to me the other day.
I've worked a lot.
So apparently our Parks and Rec director and assistant director are both working weekends to cover that slot.
So I don't, definitely that slot does not need to be eliminated. It is a public safety issue as well.
Yeah.
But we might be able to realize some savings by eliminating the position not listed there, the program coordinator, or not eliminating the position, at least delaying it in this year's budget.
Is it filled now?
No, it is not filled. It's open. As far as I know, last I'd heard.
What is that?
It's a program coordinator. It's not filled.
Can you describe that position for us, Mr. Quick? Or
So it was called the program coordinator, and now we call it the recreation coordinator. It's kind of the one that does all of our in-house leagues, junior NBA, girls softball, adult basketball, and adult baseball. They also help with any small programming like monthly programs, Mother's Day craft, Father's Day craft, Valentine's Day, any of the kids programs, senior programs, outdoor programs, or sports programs.
Who's doing that now?
We are doing it with our part-time staff, just trying to find people that kind of have the time and the skill set to do that. Rec leaders that normally work the front desk.
are we doing it with the part-time staff? Are we actually spending extra hours hiring part-time staff for that, or are they, I mean, in essence, I guess they have to be.
They kind of do both. We have to have kind of a large staff because, you know, being part-time work, some of them have other jobs or some of them have other, you know, obligations and they're not able to work.
A better way to ask that is, if we fill this position, would it reduce the number of part-time hours?
It could. It just all depends when we get people that can only work certain hours. But yeah, definitely this would alleviate a lot of that work.
Okay.
So the coordinator, is that also who sets up like the movies in the park, going to the housing authority properties with the travel
Correct.
crafts?
So if I may, there are 15 full-time positions in Parks and Recreation. 2 are the city maintenance staff that take care of police station, fire stations, everything that is really not recreation. 1 is a custodian for this building, the police station, planning and codes, and public works. They don't do anything for me at all. There's 1 custodian that does clean both community centers. There's 5 people on the grounds crew that mow. That's all they do. The 3 coordinators, the admin coordinator, the rec coordinator, and the aquatics coordinator, are the recreation staff outside of me and Jeff. So all of the recreation takes place in those 3 positions.
What, and JP makes a point that we've talked about at length before. I think, and it doesn't have to be done in this budget, but in future budgets, I think all those maintenance components need to be taken out of the Parks and Rec budget. They could still answer, as far as I'm concerned, still answer to the Parks and Recreation staff, but I think it overstates the amount of money we're spending on Parks and Recreation, because in the Parks and Recreation budget now is the janitor that cleans City Hall or the janitor that cleans the police station. And so it makes it look like we're spending that on recreation, which we're not.
Right, that's a good point.
I was asking about this position, about the potential to cut it, and I guess it was a question more than a request. How long have you been out of this position, JP? And is it one of those that's hard to fill?
This position was vacant the end of February. This is the toughest position to fill in the city, I believe, because of the hours. Everybody wants to work 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Events and programs happen outside those hours. If you have a family, if you have other obligations, it's a very hard job to have a good work-life balance. Most people use this as a stepping stone to move into the director's role or a deputy director's role. Since I've worked with the city, we've had 14.
14. Wow. So, I mean, it might be something we need to, if you got.
Maybe there's a structure problem there.
Yeah, right, yeah. So that's why I think it might be something we could delay and look at how we could do it a different way potentially. I don't want it, take it out of JP's, to reduce his staff permanently, because he's doing a lot with a little, but I do think it might be somewhere we could get some savings right now while we figure out maybe a better path.
Let me ask you something. I may have mislooked at this. Is the mowing, there was a $81,000 for mowing. Is that contract mowing or you all mowing?
Yes, we mow everything inside the fences in the parks, with the exception of like the disc golf course, some of the places that contractors just don't do. We do have an $84,600 line item, and that is a contract mowing service. We have roughly, 150 acres of common area that's outside the field. All of Wagner Park, all of Johnson Lane, they mow everything that's not an athletic field.
How often do they mow?
They mow once a week from about 28 to 30 weeks a year. We try to, cut them off when we can, and we try to mow until we can't hold them off any longer in April.
Is that an area that's used by the public?
It is.
Okay, answer my question.
Do y'all mow all the athletic facilities in the city?
We do.
That includes all of our school system and everything?
That's correct.
Wow.
Do you get compensated for that?
I don't believe so, no.
Whoa, good point.
Can you estimate how much?
Huh?
Go ahead.
How much do you spend on that a year?
So Sue has put together some numbers in the budget. It's the 038 cost center, and I believe it's right at $30,000.
To mow the school property?
It's just the 4 fields, and really, we own the Grouder Stadium, so that's ours, but it's the football field, the softball field, and the soccer field behind East Middle School.
Let me state something, at least in my experience, which shows how generous this community is. When we used to do travel ball, you'd sit there and ask them, who keeps up your fields and stuff? It's the leagues, and we do that, plus pay for the lighting. Y'all do a tremendous job. We have excellent facilities, and I commend you for that.
Thank you. I get a lot of compliments.
So let's come back to the one we got on the table right now, which is this program director. Did you actually make a motion? I can't remember.
I made the motion to not cut the position permanently, but to cut it out of this year's budget.
Okay. Was it seconded? Does anybody want to second that?
I think it's showing a second.
I think that's the previous thing, I think.
And that would be to give us time to figure out a new plan to move forward with that.
Question about the salary of the aquatics coordinator. What is that based on? Are you comparing that to other cities?
This is not the aquatics.
Oh, which one are we talking about?
It's not on this list. He brought up the program. He brought up the programs coordinator.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But I assume it's a similar salary. or is it a
The
little more?
aquatics coordinator makes a little bit more because they're over so many lifeguards. There's a lot of records, there's a lot of,
Training.
The training of the lifeguards, their certifications, the water. We have to keep the water chemistry checks for multiple years.
What's the salary for the program director roughly?
I think the programmer's about 50, and the aquatics director's about 55.
Okay. So we're talking about 50. So Coach made a motion, no one has seconded yet. All right. To remove that. Mr. Quick.
I'm a little concerned about removing this item strictly based on the amount of time and stress and pressure I'm seeing from our people. Again, if you look at the people that are leading the program, you know, I've got JP and I've got Jeff who are working all of these hours, and the biggest concern I have with removing it is I know how much junior MBA takes as far as trying to coordinate all of that and the teams and the people and uniforms and all that kind of stuff. My biggest concern, I'm all about saving money, is what's that going to do to the staff that's going to be taking that on? And while I think part-time could do some of these things, I think there are others that are going to be very challenging. And knowing JP and Jeff and how they operate, they're going to take on a lot of that responsibility. And I'm concerned for them.
Well, I may withdraw my motion. I have a question, JP. I was of the understanding that this position was the other kinds of programs, that the athletic programs were done by Mr. Dameron.
In his previous role, he was the athletic coordinator. We did away with that coordinator, and we have combined it all with what you used to call the program coordinator.
So
now it's just the recreation.
This person does all the stuff that Jeff used to do.
Well, Jeff helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, it takes multiple people sometimes.
I wasn't saying that. So, okay. Well, I'll withdraw my
Sounds like there's some more
motion.
to discuss in the future.
Yeah, we need to look at that heavily.
So that's the end of the list we had from the staff.
But did we vote on Rock Creek Concert Series or any of that stuff near the top?
I thought it was.
That was never made.
Oh, it was never made a motion. You brought it up, so. Here, who's your list back? No, but yeah, feel free if you want to talk about that.
I think that's like the only one we didn't.
I do have a point of clarification on the Rock Creek Concert Series. You said 28,000.
That's what it has
It's
on.
only 16. That is the entire cut that I proposed out of programming. 5,000 was the soapbox derby and 7,000 was girls softball. So that 28,000 number is the total out of that cost center.
Well, we've already cut soapbox derby, so what is the 7,000 out of girls softball then?
We are in talks with Cal Ripken to take over girls softball, and that way we would not have the expense of the umpires, the balls.
Do you feel comfortable? With that cut?
When did we cut the soapbox derby? I know that it got
canceled this year for
I
lack
know
of
it got canceled this year, but that's not cut from the budget. It's still going to be attempted next year, or is that just gone?
There's $5,000 in the line item right now.
Okay.
So it is not there. But you said the Rock Creek concert was 28, it's only 16. The rest of that money was those other two programs.
I tell you what, let's go ahead and take the 28,000, and if he thinks he could put, and I started the soapbox derby, I want it to go on, but I don't really see it in the current climate, but if we can in earnest try to get the soapbox derby on, we could find maybe make an amendment and get that going at that time. It's not that much.
Right.
So let's just, I make a motion to take the $28,000 in program cuts. It's not just Rock Creek.
Yeah. Second? All right, so second. Are you stuck again?
She's typing.
We've got a second, Miss.
Did you push the X at the top?
Train me.
No,
We don't have an itch.
No, this one is
We're
just
fine.
showing
We're
all
fine.
still,
All right, so we have a second. Any discussion on that?
Just to make sure I'm understanding, this would be the Rock Creek concert, soapbox derby, and girls softball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the option to add them back in later.
With the option to add back, I think he
Can you add
felt
anything
comfortable about Cal Ripken taking over and I'm reticent about whether Soap Dock Derby's going to be able to make it or not, so we hope that it does, but let's go ahead and take the cut now, and we could add back if we can get it going.
Yeah, I just want to make
And
sure.
I'll try to help get it going.
That Cal Ripken taking over girls softball means that the city would no longer pay for it, is that correct? That would be? Correct. Okay. Yes. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. It's not that we're saying no girls softball in Tullahoma.
No, that's
changing the way we do it.
Okay.
We're just not taking on the expenses, some of the expenses. of it.
One of the things, just for illustration point, fielding softball teams has become very difficult for us versus what you're seeing with the baseball teams. And so, in fact, I think this year we had to combine with Manchester in order to actually have a league where we would have multiple teams being able to play one another. So I want to make sure it's not like it's a junior NBA or one that's really flourishing. This one's having some issues right now. So it's not like we're going to be cutting a big program that we have ongoing.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Now, Mr. Tolman, I'd entertain your motion.
We haven't voted on this.
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta vote on this one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm
And then
sorry.
there was
Vote.
one, too, about the school. We need to add an amendment about the school
Oh,
budget.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. So voting on the remove the program dollars from Park and Recs, so that passed 7-0. And so now, Sue, what's the amendment we need for the school?
You need to amend the budget to accept the Tullahoma City Schools budgets as presented
Okay.
in your packet.
Can somebody do that?
I'll make a motion to do what she said.
Okay. Accept the school budget as presented.
And I'll second.
Good. All right, so give our recorder a moment to type.
Okay, after we do that and the budget's complete now, we've saved, to my calculations, $246,000.
That's good.
Can we reduce the amount, that's about 5 cents on taxes, right?
4 cents.
Or it's a reduction in our reserve usage.
Yeah, that's great. I'm all for that.
I'd say,
Better to use reserves because we're
I guess we'll be making a motion about that.
Yeah.
put some of this back in.
Oh, I'm sorry. She finally finished on reserve, didn't realize we were voting.
Lori's going to need to go to physical therapy with her fingers
I know.
afterwards.
Kurt, we're voting yeah. All right. All right, 7 yes on that for the school board. So now,
Can I make a motion?
you can make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the budget with the amendments as stated,
As been approved, yeah.
as been approved.
All right, do we have a second on that?
Now, is this when we decide?
Hold on, do we have a second? Mr. Thomas made a motion to approve the budget.
I want to make sure that it's the right, that it's the motion.
I'll make a
to-
second, just so we can
It's for
discuss.
discussion purposes. You can always make an amendment to the motion.
Oh, okay.
All right, so discussion.
I guess it'd be amendment to the motion to say that since we found in what we are voting on, roughly $250,000 worth of savings, is that we can reduce the tax increase by 5 cents.
Do we have a second for that amendment?
It would be 4 cents.
4 cents.
4 cents. Do we have a second for that amendment?
I'll second it.
All right. All right, so discussion.
My only problem with that is that we're using reserve money already. I think we need to maintain and build our reserve back before we make a cut of 4%.
I don't think we're actually using the reserves. We might use the reserves. We haven't in years past.
Sounds like.
I thought we were doing it. I thought that,
I mean, we are.
obvious I misunderstood.
It's kind of
then.
an accounting device. She's using it in case in case the revenue figures maybe not come in exactly right or whatever, and we don't make it. But as the budget year goes, I think maybe the revenue does better, or maybe each department doesn't spend all the money in every little budget, and all that goes into, and then
So we will undoubtedly come out in a better position than we're estimating.
Right.
I think we're going to use some reserve this year. But aside from that, my concern with doing that is all of the tax increase is going towards roads and whatever we're going to do with this building. And if we reduce that amount, we're not going to have that in the future for those two needs, year over year over year. And we can find other places, hopefully, to save money in non-recurring expenses, and we've got to manage our salary increases as well, but we're going to handicap ourselves in the future on funding for the roads and the building if we do that. That's my opinion.
Well, I think it's just could be a misnomer to say that the tax increase is just to do the roads and the building, because there's, like you said, over $1 million worth of other increases in the budget. So you could say it's for those items. So it's just whichever you want to say it is.
Well, I mean, we've said we're going to guarantee the roadside, so.
We're going to guarantee that, yes.
Yeah, I just think we're in a better position to, if you want to drop it a penny or whatever, but I think I'd accept it just like it is now and move on. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, and I'd hate to have to go back and ask for 4 cents, right?
Well, I think there's more cuts we could get, but...
It's a future thing we can look at next year, in my opinion.
But then taxes are already raised.
Any other comments?
I'd like to say that, yeah, in my opinion, this is a long-term recurring expense that we're adding for the roads, for the municipal building. It's not something that we can just keep drawing from reserves for, because if we just kept pulling from reserves without this tax increase, eventually we wouldn't have anything there. So that's my major concern there.
Yeah, I agree. But these roads, it's been our responsibility forever, and we haven't been meeting our responsibility. I mean, and to raise taxes now to do something we should have been doing all along, I just want to
But is it
reduce
one of
that
the
impact.
reasons, one of the reasons it hasn't been done is because there was a concern we didn't have revenues to do it?
Well, we've had a lot of growth. I mean, we've had since the paper I sent out around one of the budget meetings show that we had had about 42% growth since...
Growth in what?
Revenue since 2019. So...
So since 2013, there's been 30% growth in inflation and 10% growth in the city, which is 40-something%. So that's in line with where we've been. That's the numbers I've been looking at.
Yeah, the expenses, the spending has gone up as much as the revenue. So
yeah,
I think, and we've never taken the step to take care of the roads before. So I think.
I just think it's a matter of interpretation of why that was the case.
I thought that was our game plan anyway, not to do
I
the
think we
change.
could take care of the roads by reducing other expenses.
Well, we've gone through just about everything that we had on the table tonight.
Well,
Maybe-
we've gone through everything on the table, but it would take too long to go through all the possibilities that we could have. And that's why a year of maybe using a little out of the reserves to be able to take the year to maybe explore new areas of savings for the city.
I think we should do that anyway. So.
I think we should always do that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? All right, let's vote. This is the final budget. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. You had an amendment on the floor.
Yeah.
All right. Can you read the amendment?
With the proposed cuts of $250,000.
To reduce the sales tax. Okay. I mean, the property tax. All right. All right. So we're voting to reduce the property tax increase. Okay, that motion fails 4-3. All right. So now we're back to our original motion. Any more discussion on our original motion? All right, if not, let's vote.
Did you say it was?
Mississippi.
I was asking, does this automatically then reduce how much we use out of the reserves?
What do you mean?
Sue says yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, yeah. All right, so we're voting on the full budget.
This is the ordinance number 1651.
Yes.
And so this is all-inclusive?
Yes.
I'm just, so I can sleep.
That's right. That's why I'm pausing, and that's the reason when he even coughed, I'm like, okay, hold on. But
This
no.
number 2, the ordinance number 1651, ordinance adopting the annual budget.
Yes, and that's just to raise the tax systems to.
Yes.
Pay for the roads and all, and
And
all
the
the stuff,
amendments
and
that
all the
we've
stuff we took
passed.
out, the amendments we passed will be included. And if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it.
I just wanted to have a clear conscience tonight when I laid my head down to.
Understand. I don't blame you.
And this is the vote on the cost of living, the salary and all of that.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're stuck.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's vote.
Now we vote.
Now we vote.
Now we're voting.
1 no, 6 yes, budget passes. And with that, we are done this evening, and let's go home and see if we can sleep.
Oh, I wish we could.